You exist to obey, nothing more!
Yell all you want, you're still just a sad little man.
Bullies CEO cornered the shy new intern. Her hidden mic streamed his confession. Cops stormed in. The 32nd floor of Sterling Enterprises blazed with fluorescent light against the Manhattan midnight. The towering glass building stood like a monolith against the city's restless glow, its windows reflecting the endless stream of traffic below. Inside, the corporate silence was broken only by the soft hum of computers and the distant rumble of late-night delivery trucks. Lena Hartwell pressed herself against the mahogany conference table, her heart hammering against her ribs. The 24-year-old intern's blonde hair had escaped its neat bun strands clinging to her flushed face. Her wire-rimmed glasses sat askew, knocked loose, when Victor Hargrove had grabbed her blazer and yanked her closer. "You think you're clever, don't you?" Hargrove's voice was a low growl, his 6-foot frame towering over her petite figure. The Sterling Enterprises CEO's usually immaculate silver hair was disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled from the sudden movement. "Snooping through files that don't belong to you." Lena's throat constricted. She could smell his cologne, expensive, overpowering, mixed with the sharp scent of coffee and something else. Fear, but not hers. His. "I didn't," she began, but Hargrove's hand shot out, gripping her wrist. "Don't lie to me, little girl. I know you saw that email about the charity transfers. I know you were asking questions." His grip tightened and Lena winced. "You should have minded your own business." The conference room door was closed. The building was empty except for them. Hargrove's breathing was heavy, his eyes dark with something that made Lena's stomach turn. She thought of her mother's words. Sometimes the quietest voices carry the loudest truths. Her hand moved to the small device clipped to her collar, a device Hargrove couldn't see hidden beneath her blazer's lapel. The tiny red light blinked steadily. "Mr. Hargrove," she whispered, her voice steadier than she felt. "You should stop talking." He laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the glass walls. "Or what you'll tell HR, file a complaint." His face was inches from hers now. "Nobody will believe the scared little intern from nowhere." That's when the siren started. Hargrove's head snapped toward the window, confusion replacing confidence. The wailing grew louder, closer. Red and blue lights began flashing across the building's facade. What he started then froze as his phone buzzed. The caller ID made his face drain of color. "You might want to answer that," Lena said quietly, stepping back as his grip loosened. 3 weeks earlier, Lena had stepped off the Greyhound bus at Port Authority with everything she owned crammed into 2 suitcases and a backpack. The Pennsylvania town she'd left behind, population 3,847, felt like another world compared to the crushing energy of Manhattan. But she'd dreamed of this moment since she was 12, watching her mother study law books by lamplight after her shift at the diner. Sterling Enterprises occupied floors 30-35 of the Meridian Tower, its glass facade reflecting the ambitions of everyone who passed through its doors. Lena's internship in the legal department was unpaid, barely covering her rent in a studio apartment she shared with 2 other girls in Queens. But it was a foot in the door at one of the city's most prestigious firms. Victor Hargrove was a legend in corporate circles, a self-made billionaire who'd built Sterling from a small accounting firm into a financial empire. His biography adorned the reception area, From Nothing to Everything, the Victor Hargrove story. But Lena had noticed things the biography didn't mention. The way employees' voices dropped when he passed, the high turnover rate in his personal staff, the whispered conversations that stopped when she entered a room. Her supervisor, Janet Mills, was a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who'd worked at Sterling for 15 years. During Lena's first week, Janet had pulled her aside after a particularly tense meeting. "Word of advice, honey," Janet had said, her voice low. "Stay invisible around Mr. Hargrove. He has preferences. Young, blonde, quiet. You fit the profile." Lena had brushed off the warning, assuming it was office gossip. She'd grown up invisible anyway, the scholarship kid, the one who cleaned offices after school to help pay bills. Being unseen was her superpower. But Hargrove had noticed her anyway. It started small. Requests for coffee runs that weren't in her job description. Late-night assignments that could have waited until morning. Meetings that lasted longer than necessary, where his eyes lingered too long on her face, her figure, her nervous habits. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening in October. Lena was working late cross-referencing client files for a merger Janet was handling when she accidentally accessed the wrong server folder. Instead of the Hamilton Industries files, she found herself looking at internal Sterling communications marked confidential. Her finger hovered over the close button, but something caught her eye. A chain of emails between Hargrove and the company's CFO discussing charity donations that seemed wrong. Large sums designated for children's hospitals that never appeared in public giving reports. Transfer codes that didn't match any philanthropic organization she could find. "Lena!" The voice made her jump. Hargrove stood in the doorway of her cubicle, his shadow falling across her desk. "Working late again, I see." She'd closed the file quickly, her heart racing. "Just finishing the Hamilton research for Ms. Mills." His smile was predatory. "Good. I like dedication. Why don't you come to my office? I have a special project for you." That night alone in her tiny apartment, Lena couldn't shake what she'd seen. The numbers didn't add up. The charity transfers were too large, too frequent, too suspicious. But who would believe her? She was nobody, a small-town girl with a community college degree and dreams too big for her circumstances. She thought of calling her father, but he was dealing with his own problems back home. Medical bills from her mother's cancer treatment still arrived monthly, even though she'd been gone for 2 years. He didn't need to worry about her, too. Instead, she did something she'd never done before. She reached out to someone she'd only heard about in whispers. Clara Santos, a former Sterling employee who'd been mysteriously fired 3 years ago. Lena found her contact information in old company directories and sent a carefully worded email. Clara's response came within hours. "Meet me at Joe's Coffee on 47th. Tomorrow 6 p.m. Come alone." Clara Santos was not what Lena expected. The 35-year-old former legal counsel had vibrant purple streaks in her black hair and wore leather boots that looked like they could kick down doors. She sat in the corner booth of Joe's Coffee, her laptop open, watching the door like she expected trouble. "You're either very brave or very stupid," Clara said when Lena slid into the opposite seat. "Probably both." Lena wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, drawing warmth from the ceramic. "You worked for Hargrove. You know what he's like." "I know more than you think." Clara's dark eyes were serious. "What did you see?" Lena described the email chain, the suspicious transfers, the patterns she'd noticed. Clara listened without interruption, occasionally making notes on her laptop. When Lena finished, Clara leaned back in her seat. "He's been at this for years," Clara said finally. "Stealing from charity accounts, manipulating merger funds, bribing city officials. I tried to expose him once. Cost me my career, my savings, and nearly my sanity." "Why didn't you go to the police?" Clara laughed bitterly. "With what evidence? Hargrove's smart. He covers his tracks, pays the right people, destroys documents. By the time I gathered enough proof, I was already branded as a disgruntled employee making false accusations." She pulled up a file on her laptop, a detailed investigation spanning 3 years. Bank records, testimony from former employees, patterns of suspicious transactions. It was impressive work, but Clara was right. It was all circumstantial. "I need someone inside," Clara continued. "Someone he trusts, someone invisible." Lena felt a chill run down her spine. "You want me to spy on him? I want you to document everything. Record conversations, copy files, gather evidence that can't be dismissed. But it's dangerous, Lena. Hargrove doesn't just fire people who threaten him. They disappear. Accidents happen. Careers die." That night, Lena lay awake staring at the water stain on her ceiling. She thought about her mother, who'd worked 3 jobs to put food on the table while studying for her GED. She thought about her father still paying medical bills 2 years after losing his wife. She thought about all the people who donated to Sterling's charity campaigns, believing their money was helping children. The next morning, she called Clara. "What do I need to do?" The plan was simple but required precision. Clara would provide Lena with a micro-recording device, military-grade, undetectable to standard security sweeps. It would stream audio directly to Clara's secured server, creating a real-time backup of everything Hargrove said. "The key is patience," Clara explained during their second meeting, this time in a crowded bookstore in Brooklyn. "Don't push. Let him come to you. Men like Hargrove can't resist the urge to brag, especially to someone they think they're controlling." Sorry, but Hargrove was becoming more aggressive. The coffee runs became dinner requests. The late meetings moved from his office to private conference rooms. His touches lingered longer, a hand on her shoulder, fingers brushing hers when she handed him documents. Other employees began to notice. Janet Mills pulled her aside again, this time with genuine concern. "Lena, you need to be careful. I've seen this pattern before. Hargrove has a type, and when he gets bored..." She didn't finish the sentence. "What happened to the others?" Lena asked. Janet's face darkened. "The last one was a paralegal named Sarah. Brilliant girl, top of her class at Columbia. She was going to report him for sexual harassment. 3 days later, she was fired for allegedly stealing confidential files. Her reputation was destroyed. She's working at a copy shop in Queens now." The micro device arrived in an unmarked package disguised as a vintage brooch. Clara had taught her how to activate it with a simple touch sequence. The recording quality was crystal clear, and the range was impressive. It could pick up conversations from across a large room. For a week, Lena wore the device daily, capturing routine conversations, mundane meetings, and Hargrove's casual cruelty toward subordinates. But nothing directly incriminating. Then came the night that changed everything. Hargrove called her into his office at 9 p.m. after most employees had gone home. He'd been drinking. She could smell the whiskey on his breath as he closed the door behind her. "Lena," he said, his voice softer than usual, "you've been doing excellent work. I think it's time we discussed your future here." She activated the recording device as he moved closer. Her training with Clara kicked in. Keep him talking, don't show fear. Let his ego do the work. "I appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Hargrove," she said carefully. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You know I've been watching you. You remind me of myself at your age, hungry, ambitious, willing to do whatever it takes to succeed." The conversation continued for 30 minutes, Hargrove dancing around explicit offers, but making his expectations clear. When he finally dismissed her, Lena's hands were shaking as she gathered her things. That night she listened to the recording with Clara. It was suggestive but not conclusive. They needed more. "He's testing you," Clara observed, "seeing how far he can push. The real conversation is coming." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Lena was organizing files for Janet when she overheard a heated phone conversation from Hargrove's office. The door was slightly ajar and his voice carried across the reception area. "I don't care what the board thinks," he was saying. "The Meridian account is mine to manage. If they don't like how I handle the charity allocations, they can find another CEO." Lena activated her recording device and moved closer, pretending to file documents in the cabinet near his door. "Listen to me carefully." Hargrove continued, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "Those children's hospital donations are being redirected exactly as planned. The mayor's re-election campaign needs the funding, and he's promised to fast-track our zoning permits for the Brooklyn project." Her breath caught. This was it, direct evidence of charity fraud. "If anyone asks questions, you tell them the money went to administration costs, medical equipment purchases, whatever sounds good. The donors will never know the difference." The call ended abruptly, and Lena hurried back to her desk. Her heart was pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. She'd just recorded Hargrove admitting to stealing millions from charity donations and using the money for political bribes. But as she was sending the audio file to Clara's secure server, her computer screen flickered. A message appeared. "Unauthorized access detected. System administrator notified." Panic flooded her system. Sterling's IT department was notoriously thorough. If they traced the breach to her workstation, she was finished. Within minutes, her phone buzzed with a text from Clara. "Emergency meeting. Now. Parking garage level B2. Lena grabbed her purse and headed for the elevators, trying to look casual. In the parking garage, Clara was waiting by her car, face grim. "They know," Clara said without preamble. "I intercepted communications from Sterling's security team. They've identified unusual network activity from your workstation. How long do we have?" "Hours, maybe less. Hargrove will connect the dots quickly. You need to disappear." Lena felt the walls closing in. "I can't run. My father needs me. This job won't matter if you're dead." Clara's voice was sharp. "Or if you end up like Sarah with your reputation destroyed and no way to fight back." But even as Clara spoke, Lena was thinking. Hargrove didn't know exactly what she'd recorded. He might suspect her of accessing files, but he didn't know about the audio evidence. And if she ran now, he'd have time to cover his tracks, destroy evidence, silence other potential witnesses. What if we don't run? Lena said slowly. Clara stared at her. What do you mean? What if we force his hand, make him reveal everything while we're recording? That's insane. Hargrove is dangerous when he's cornered. Lena pulled out her phone and showed Clara the recording device app. This streams directly to your server, right real-time upload. Yes, but... And you have connections with law enforcement from your investigation? Clara nodded reluctantly. Detective Morrison at the Financial Crimes Division. He's been following Hargrove for years, waiting for solid evidence. Lena took a deep breath. Then we give him what he needs. Tonight. The plan was risky, bordering on reckless. Lena would return to the office and act normally until Hargrove confronted her about the security breach, which he inevitably would. Clara would monitor the live audio feed and alert Detective Morrison the moment they had enough evidence. If he gets violent, Clara warned, the police might not arrive in time. Then I'll have to make sure he talks first. As they parted ways, Clara grabbed Lena's arm. Your mother would be proud, she said quietly, but she'd also want you to be safe. Lena thought of the photo on her desk, her mother in her graduation cap and gown, finally getting her law degree at age 45. She'd want me to do what's right. Lena returned to the office at 8 p.m. using her keycard to access the building after hours. The security guard Marcus was someone she'd chatted with regularly during her late nights. Working late again, Miss Hartwell? He asked with a friendly smile. Just finishing up some files for tomorrow's presentation. She lied smoothly. Mr. Hargrove wants everything perfect. Marcus nodded knowingly. That man works you kids too hard. You take care of yourself. If only he knew, Lena thought as she rode the elevator to the 32nd floor. The legal department was dark except for the security lighting. Lena settled at her desk and opened the files she'd been working on earlier, trying to maintain the illusion of normalcy. Her phone buzzed with a text from Clara. In position. Detective Morrison is standing by. Device is active. She touched the brooch on her lapel, feeling the slight vibration that confirmed it was recording. Every word spoken in the next hour would be preserved and transmitted in real time. At 8:47 p.m., the elevator chimed. Heavy footsteps echoed across the marble floor of the reception area. Lena's pulse quickened, but she kept her eyes on her computer screen, typing steadily. Lena. Hargrove's voice cut through the silence. I need to see you in conference room A. Now. She looked up, feigning surprise. Of course, Mr. Hargrove. Is everything all right? His smile was cold. We'll discuss that privately. Conference room A was the largest meeting space on the floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Hargrove closed the door behind them and activated the privacy glass, which turned opaque with the press of a button. Sit down, he commanded, gesturing to the chair at the far end of the conference table. Lena remained standing. What's this about? You know exactly what this is about. Hargrove moved closer, his footsteps deliberate. Our IT department detected some interesting activity on your workstation today. Unauthorized access to confidential files. I was just doing the research you assigned. Don't. His voice was sharp. Don't insult my intelligence. I know you accessed the charity transfer files. I know you've been snooping where you don't belong. Lena's training with Clara kicked in. Keep him talking. Let his ego drive the conversation. I don't understand what you're accusing me of, she said, backing toward the window. Hargrove laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're good, I'll give you that. Playing the innocent little girl from Pennsylvania. But I know what you are. You're just like the others, ambitious, conniving, willing to destroy a man's life to get ahead. Others, Lena pressed. Sarah Mitchell, Rebecca Chen, all the eager young women who thought they could bring me down. His voice was rising anger, overcoming caution. They learned the hard way that I don't tolerate betrayal. Perfect. He was incriminating himself with every word. What happened to them? Lena asked, genuinely curious now. Sarah's working at Kinko's making copies for lawyers who won't even look at her resume. Rebecca moved back to whatever small town she crawled out of. They learned that crossing Victor Hargrove has consequences. He was close enough now that she could see the veins bulging in his forehead, smell the whiskey on his breath. But she could also see something else: fear. He was scared, and scared men made mistakes. The charity money, she said quietly. Where did it really go? Hargrove's face darkened. You don't get to ask questions. You don't get to judge me. Do you have any idea how much good I've done for this city? How many jobs I've created? How many lives I've improved? By stealing from children's hospitals. The words hung in the air between them. Hargrove's mask of control slipped completely. Those donations were redirected to serve the greater good, he snarled. Mayor Davidson's infrastructure projects will benefit millions of people. A few sick kids versus an entire city's future? It's simple mathematics. Lena's phone buzzed in her pocket, a text from Clara, but she couldn't check it without breaking character. And the mayor's campaign funds, she pressed. Politics requires investment. You wouldn't understand, you're just a small-town nobody who thinks the world owes her something. Hargrove moved closer, backing her against the window. But you're about to learn how the real world works. Hargrove's hand shot out, gripping her blazer. Lena felt the fabric tear as he yanked her closer, his face inches from hers. Here's what's going to happen, he said, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. You're going to forget everything you think you saw. You're going to finish your internship quietly, take the mediocre recommendation I'll give you, and disappear back to whatever backwater town you came from. Lena's heart was pounding, but she kept her voice steady. And if I don't, his grip tightened. Then you'll join Sarah and Rebecca in the long list of people who tried to destroy me and failed. Your reputation will be ruined. You'll never work in law again. And your father, what's his name? Robert might find himself facing some unfortunate financial difficulties. The threat against her father sparked something fierce in Lena's chest. You stay away from my family, Hargrove smiled, enjoying her reaction. I know everything about your pathetic little life, Lena. Your mother's medical bills, your father's struggling auto shop, the scholarship you lost when you dropped out to work. I could make all of his problems disappear or make them much, much worse. Stop talking, Lena said, but her voice carried a warning he was too angry to hear. Why? Because you're recording this. He laughed harshly. You think I'm stupid? That micro device clipped to your collar? Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Lena's blood ran cold. He knew about the recording device, but Hargrove was enjoying himself too much to stop. I've been in this business for 30 years, little girl. I know every trick, every scheme, every pathetic attempt to bring down successful men. Your recording won't mean anything without corroborating evidence, and I've spent years making sure no such evidence exists. The charity transfers will show exactly what they're supposed to show. Administrative costs, equipment purchases, legitimate expenses. I'm very good at making numbers, say whatever I want them to say. He leaned closer, his breath hot against her face. But you know what, I'm tired of pretending to be the villain in your little fantasy. Maybe it's time I lived up to the reputation. His free hand moved to her waist, and Lena realized with growing horror what he intended. Don't, she said, pushing against his chest. Scream if you want, Hargrove said, his voice taking on a sickening sweetness. There's no one here to help you, just like there was no one to help Sarah when she came to my office that night. Just like there was no one to help Rebecca. That's when the siren started. Hargrove froze his head, snapping toward the window. Red and blue lights were flashing across the building's facade, growing brighter as multiple police vehicles surrounded the building. What? He began, then his phone buzzed. The caller ID made his face drain of color. D.T. Morrison, NYPD Financial Crimes. Lena stepped back as his grip loosened. You might want to answer that. Hargrove's hands were shaking as he accepted the call. Detective Morrison's voice was clear enough for the recording device to pick up. Mr. Hargrove, this is Detective Morrison, NYPD Financial Crimes Division. We're currently in your building lobby with warrants for your arrest on charges of charity fraud, bribery, and sexual assault. You have 2 minutes to surrender peacefully. This is impossible, Hargrove whispered, staring at Lena. The recording, it's not admissible. Actually, it is. Lena's voice was steady now, the fear replaced by something stronger. New York is a one-party consent state. As long as one person in the conversation knows they're being recorded, which I did, it's perfectly legal. The conference room door burst open. Detective Morrison entered with 2 uniformed officers, weapons drawn but lowered. Victor Hargrove. Morrison said, "You're under arrest for charity fraud, conspiracy to commit bribery and sexual assault." As the handcuffs clicked around Hargrove's wrists, he looked at Lena with pure hatred. "You have no idea what you've done. I'll destroy you for this." Lena met his gaze without flinching. "You already tried." 3 months later, Lena sat in the same conference room, now serving as Sterling Enterprises' new legal compliance officer. The company had been restructured under new management, with a board of directors committed to transparency and ethical practices. Clara Santos had been hired as Director of Internal Investigations, her 3-year crusade against corruption finally validated. The misappropriated charity funds, over $8 million, had been recovered and distributed to their intended recipients. Hargrove was awaiting trial on multiple felony charges. The recordings had been devastating, but even more damaging was the testimony of 7 other women who came forward after the story broke. Sarah Mitchell, the paralegal who'd been discredited and fired, was now working as an associate at a prestigious firm that recruited her specifically because of her courage in speaking out. Detective Morrison visited Lena regularly, both to update her on the case and to consult on other financial crimes investigations. Her instinct for spotting suspicious patterns had proven invaluable. But the moment that meant the most came on a quiet Tuesday evening. Lena was working late by choice this time when her phone rang. Her father's voice was warm with pride. "I saw the article in the Times," he said. "Your mother would be so proud." Lena touched the framed photo on her desk, her mother in her graduation cap and gown, the law degree she'd worked so hard to earn. "I found her journal, Dad. She wrote something about being a light in dark places." "She always said you had her fire," her father replied. "I guess she was right." As Lena looked out at the city lights twinkling below, she thought about the scared young woman who'd stepped off the Greyhound bus just 6 months ago. That woman had believed she was invisible, powerless, destined to remain silent in the face of injustice. She'd learned that sometimes the quietest voices carry the loudest truths, and sometimes when you refuse to stay silent, you discover that you were never invisible at all. You were just waiting for the right moment to shine. The micro-recording device sat in her desk drawer, now a reminder of the night that changed everything. She'd kept it not as a trophy, but as a promise. To her mother's memory, to her father's faith, and to all the women who'd been silenced by men like Hargrove. Never again would she let her voice be taken away. Outside Manhattan hummed with its endless energy, full of dreamers and schemers, predators and protectors. And in a glass tower overlooking it all, a young woman from Pennsylvania had found her place in the fight for justice, one recorded conversation at a time.